No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And here we go. This is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor. Thanks for joining me this morning. It is a cold 34-degree weather morning. I've already made my coffee. I'm already warmed up and I'm ready to go. Now my voice is a little bit off today. Not feeling all that good today. I don't know why. But anyway, we're going to go on. Remember yesterday we talked about knowing what your taxpayer rights are, because you're protected under a taxpayer bill of rights program within the IRS. And that also has to do with a lot of compliance issues. And one of the compliance issues is knowing what your policies and procedures are within your company. And a lot of companies have good policies and procedures in place, but are people actually adhering to them? Are they following them? And I think that what I would like to do is, there was a really good article that was written. And it was written by a Calvin London, and that's under the Corporate Compliance Insights on the web, on the internet. And he wrote a really good article, which I'm going to steal from today because it was so well written. Because you see, what happens is that compliance has to do with ethics. And not everybody that we hire, that we work with, or that we put in places of leadership have diluted their ethics. And we're going to talk about some of those this morning. And the issue is that you don't have to look far in our society around us to realize that as the generations changed from Generation X through Y, now to Generation Z, with Generation Alpha behind them, the ethics of the common person are changing. Ethics and compliance is an issue. And we have to look at this, and we have to talk about the impact on ethical behavior and the ability to create a positive culture and a compliant workforce. And if you have a company, this is very vital, because as you look at all of these companies that are failing, they had some very bad ethical behavior of wokeness. And I'm putting it out there because wokeness is a very unethical behavior of trying to cancel other people out. We have to really look at this, because compliance has a really sticky thing at the moment of companies not adhering to their own policies and procedures, especially when it comes to political when people are trying to promote a political agenda within a company. It's unethical. Highly unethical. Let's talk about some examples. A few examples from everyday life of people who are diluting their ethical behavior and the compliance behavior is we can look at everyday life that exemplify the poor ethical behavior of some people, especially many of those in our younger generations. People who deliberately speed, as an example. It's a small example, but it's a good example. They know there is a speed limit and consciously, not accidentally, through a momentary lapse of thought, and deliberately speed. That's an ethical behavior. People who walk straight past a sign that says no dogs allowed and no fishing, but do it anyway because they can't be bothered. to find an appropriate area to fish or walk their dogs. People who park in a disabled spot at a supermarket because they have less distance to walk and it's more convenient, presumably thinking, why should disabled people get all the good spots? People who take their dog for a walk and don't pick up their poop. I hate that. You can always tell a good dog person because they've always got a big old roll of plastic in their pockets, and no matter where they go, it's always there. I have one in my pocket right now. People who can't be bothered going to a trash can, so they throw litter or cigarette butts out of their car windows. These examples are mostly minor, but they are indicators of people who already have a disregard for compliance and the rules of society. Somehow, their behavior has to be magically changed when they enter the corporate life with the expectation of following policy and procedures. This is something, those minor little exchanges that we just talked about are huge when it comes to will they comply and will they be ethical within your company. The other issue is selfishness contributes to unethical behavior and is the source of many cases of non-compliance. Two examples from very recent times are many readers and listeners, I should say, may be following the story of Elizabeth Holmes, the disgraced Theranos founder, who was recently sentenced to more than 11 years in prison after being convicted of multiple fraud charges. The coverage makes for interesting reading. We've seen it in the newspaper. We've seen it in the business headlines. There was some evidence that the roots of her unethical behavior were already there before she became a CEO. She gave herself moral license to tell the lies she deemed unnecessary to reach her goal. She desperately wanted to believe her own hype, her own story, her own nonsense, which at some point became contorted. There was a huge breach of ethical principles and standards like honesty, integrity, and credibility, reinforced by firing those who spoke up and raised red flags. And then we have to look at Martin Shkreli, who was convicted of defrauding investors and is serving 7 years in prison. May well have been a very innovative and intelligent human being, but it is hard to imagine that any part of his decisions to increase a drug price by 5,000% is in any form ethical. When asked what he'd do differently, he could go back in time. He said that he would put the price even higher to make more profits for shareholders, of which he was a major one. He used his leadership position to achieve personal material gain and tried to justify it as it was his choice. He had no choice. That's what he said. He had no choice. And then we look at FTX, the cryptocurrency, which has literally destroyed many people's lives. So we see these behaviors, and we see that they had a behavioral pattern from the beginning. Policies and procedures were put to the side because they had a greed that they wanted to carry out. All three of those, and we can even bring in Madoff. Madoff was the same thing. He had that history of not doing ethical things. I wrote a book not long ago. It was called ethically thinking it's not that hard. And it really isn't that hard because it's really a choice of what's right and what's wrong. If you're continually choosing what is wrong, you have an ethics problem. Compliance gets us into a lot of big trouble. If you do not comply, it can result in a lot of discomfort within a business. Because now you have to deal with late fees and penalties and taxing authorities coming after you, and local authorities coming after you, and even the legal profession coming after you because you did not comply. You decided to go off into your own direction because it was financially rewarding to you. Selfishness was the big cause. Now, all of you small businesses need to educate your employees on how to comply with corporate policy, various rules and regulations that are out there. The more that you teach your employees on compliance and on ethics, the less conflict you will have, the less disputes you will have. So many times we see compliance pushed to the side because they're so worried about cash flow. And the problem is when you put compliance to the side, that's going to eat into your cash flow because something's going to come that you missed, that you didn't pay attention to, that employee didn't take seriously. That leads to costing you more money in the long run. Compliance on company policies and procedures and on all of the rules that are out there that govern or that look over your business, you've got to be very careful to comply. It's not that hard to be ethical. It's just doing what is right and getting the jobs done timely. And put the selfishness to the side because you're focused on how to run your business and comply with everything that's out there that's banging onto you. If you can't do it yourself, hire someone that will come in and do it for you. I tell you, I deal with this every single day. I deal with helping my clients comply, looking at what is coming next. What is the risk that's coming to you? But it has to deal with every single company owner, business owner, sitting down and training their employees on compliance. Look at your policies and procedures and make sure they understand it thoroughly. Make sure they know what compliance is all about and how it can hurt the company if one step is missed. Listen, if you want to have more access to me, go to my website at www.lodge-co.com. And if you want to send me an email, if you have a specific question, send it to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. And I'll get it and I'll answer your questions. Everybody should go out and have a great day. But remember, compliance is so vital for every single small, big, large stock trading company, whoever size of company that you may be. It's vital that you focus on your compliance. One bad apple can spoil the whole bunch, boy. Oh, that really aged me, didn't it? Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. God bless.